Welcome back to Mud, Dust and Gears, where we pick up on the action. It's prologue time, brought to you by 4x4 Mega World. And all the key players were going to be in the mix. It was going to be up to Malcolm Koch to opening up race proceedings, with Sean Van Staden reading the notes on this sprint 42-kilometer time trial. First car was out, and it was a Toyota Hilux. And all bets were off at this stage. No one knew who was going to be able to walk away with the cheese coming out of the first event. Johan Van Staden and Mike Lawrenson, the Renault Duster, have now been developed for a full 12 months. We're using this opening round of the Northern Regions Cross Country Championship Race Series 2018 to see what speed they could get out of the Alf Renault Duster as they started to prepare themselves for the attack on Dakar 2019. Kutsia and Sandra Labuskakny-Jonk were out in their Porter once again, and they would be a huge threat going forward in the special vehicle category, custom made for this kind of terrain. Keith Toy, alongside as always Robbie Kutsia in the Bat Spec 2, were out in the Scania vehicle to see what they could do and chase down and close down on an early season podium. Keith making the trip across from Botswana to join us. Werner Kennedy and CJ Van Pletzen stepping into the ex-Gibson Porter. And this car has got a lot of pace. So if this new team could get their head around it in the short 42k prologue, they were also going to be a huge threat. Road to Dakar Ford Ranger, and a car that's had a complete stripped-down rebuild in the off-season. Jacques Van Tonda and Sammy Redlinghuis would be going for production vehicle class honours, but they would have to go up against an extremely in-form LC Diaga and Killian, who have shown strong form at the end of last year and started the year great on the pace coming out of the Graven Motorsports camp. Yanni Visser and Chris Visser Jr., defending national title holders at this round, racing in the Class X, and they know this terrain like the back of their hands. Racing out of Team Barberspan just down the road, they'll know exactly what to do in this terrain. Pete and Benjamin Kutsia, another one of the well-prepped Toyota Hiluxes, will be doing the chase down, racing in the X category on the number 8. Some fantastic early lap shots and a short, tight 42-kilometer loop telling us exactly what the crews are going to be in for. Making the step up to the full CRTs, racing in the special vehicles, Tony and Mikey Gavea in the P52. We'll hope that they have done a lot of their learning in the off-season to get on with the new vehicle and start bringing home those early season podiums. After that, it would be Lawrence Van Veek and Swace Moret in the Toyota Hilux. The D categories, the D1 showing that they were the best of the rest in last season, and they are out to defend their Class D production vehicle title in their single cab Hilux. Some over-revving early on, but as you can see, the Vryburg Motor Club sparing no expense to make sure that all drivers and teams were out for the big, strong attack early on. Tinas Dutoy and Arnold Norkia in the E category. Now the Class D and E's have a bit of a war between themselves to see who can walk away with the highest overall results come the end of the race day. And the Class E's would be pushing on in the early part of the day. Tinas and Tian Leroux, we go on board with the special vehicle buggy, the Sandmaster, as they go for it in the Class P. I have spoken about it in other productions that the Class P is one of the most competitive special vehicle categories in Northern Region Championship racing. Class P cars running engines up to 4 litres, so once they get up to pace, they do not hang around, believe you me. Regan Austin and Trevor Robinson in the Toyota Hilux, always famous for running that bright orange plastic for their windscreen. So it gives them that little evil look and an advantage as they run to try and get the numbers done in the D16, an ultra-competitive Class D production vehicle bucky. The Class D is for petrol engines of 6 cylinders up to 4 litres and turbo diesels of 5 cylinders and up to 3.2 litres. So these things do not hang around. Ronnie Cook and Jaco Skitter. Young Skitter having his first time behind the notes in the Nissan Hardbody as they go after a Class E win. And they are a very strong bet, believe me, coming out of HUD Speed. The E3 of Aki and Jandre Kruger in the Toyota Hilux will be doing the chase down to see if they can get one over on Roddy Cook. The first section of the track was very much brush but there was a nice clear track for everyone to do the chase down on. Fricky and Chartstein running in the Midas colours. In the E category for petrol engines up to 3 litres and 4 cylinders, and turbo diesels running the same. Out on the track, notes would be key. So if there were new pairings out there, they would be learning each other as well as the terrain they were racing on. Ignace Duplessis and Jean Vermark in the Isuzu, one of the few Isuzus still racing out there on SA soil in the KB 300. Again, racing in the category E, and there was a huge lineup of cars running in the E class, making it one of the most competitive lineups to start out the 2018 season. Andre Gildenis and Victor Fitcham carried on that theme as they rolled out in their brand new built Toyota Hilux. So much work going into this vehicle in the off-season, and the pairing were looking to see what they could do. One of the main squads coming out of the Vryburg Motor Squad. The E6 just easing their way into the day. Wayne Smith and Willy Dupree. We know that the Mitsubishi Colt does not hang around, so it was a nice, aggressive start off the line, as always, for the D22 to go and get the job done. What we liked at the opening round of the 2018 Northern Region Championship Race Series was the fact that across the board, that was production vehicles and special vehicles alike, we had near on every single manufacturer represented. One of the biggest lineups we have ever seen for our opening round of the championship. Ahmed Jada and Keith Smith in the Nissan Hardbody were getting it done early on in the D77. Running the old Hannes Krobler colours as well. Etienne Nienauber and Scott Jennings in the Toyota Land Cruiser with that incredible pipe on were showing what they could do. And even though they started way back, the D27 was going to post one of the strongest times coming out of the early morning 4x4 Mega World Prologue. Keith McInerney and Victor Nsheki were getting the job done in their Bat Spec 2. The P22 pairing have been in the seat together for a number of seasons now. They'll know exactly what it takes to get the job done. And they actually ended last season on extremely strong form, so they're hoping to carry that forward into the start of 2018. Further back in the lineup queue, Diedrich and Rikus Hutting in the Ford Ranger in the D67 would see if they had it in the bag. Running in the Transcore colours, but Ford was not sounding great coming out of the gate. Out there on the track though, they seemed to get over their early morning gremlins and start to build up the pace. There were 2 thought patterns going into the time trial. Attack as hard as you can, or just take it nice and easy and allow the race to come to you. This is what it looked like on board of the D33 for Francois van der Waals and Gerry Prinsloo in their Toyota Hilux. Attacking coming out of the gate. One of the major threats to take not only the Class D win on the day, but also the production vehicle overall. This pairing, as well as this vehicle, have an extremely strong pedigree coming into this season's championship. On board then, as they have shown us so many times, some great onboard footage. Driver and navigator in unison. Jaco and Johan Visser a little bit further down the lineup queue. The good thing was there was a nice minute dust gap between each of the cars, so on a 42-kilometer loop there wasn't really going to be that issue of traffic, and everyone, for the most part, had a solid, clean run on their 42k Prologue. Donny Duploy and Paul Murray, the D14. Starting a little bit further down than they would have liked, but we go on board with them to see how things looked. Relatively easy, simple, nice and easy to read 42k Prologue with nice early road markings, giving the crews plenty of time to react out there on the course. But remember, this was just a glorified warm-up run, and it would be later on in the day when they finished, they would go straight over into the lineup queue for the full loop before they went out and raced 2 laps of 124 arduous kilometers in the Northwest Province. Vryburg Motor Club hosting us for round number 1 of the championship. Gerard Duplessis and Donovan Thompson, the second of the Isuzu KB, this time at 280. Fincham and Bielefeld this time around in the second of the Toyota Land Cruisers, the Z category, denoting they are one of the older vehicles in the lineup queue, with the classic race number 99. Remember, back in the day, And the previous evening we heard many stories from our legends. And throughout the 80s and early part of the 90s, the Land Cruiser was the car to have to win a championship. As we moved further on, it was the Nissan hardbodies, either in the hands of Hannes Frobler and in later years Leroy Poulter. Nissan ruled the roost for many years before the Toyotas started to take over and rule. The Z category making up our final entries as the slower, older vehicles bobbed, wobbled and weaved their way out of the start chute. De Villiers and Jacobs in a Datsun, you gotta love it. This is what we love about Northern Region Championship racing. Still keeping those old dogs rolling. And then in straight with the new blood, the side-by-side invitational category. Nico Durant, they'd be chased down by Bradbury and Claessens in the Can-Am X3. The G category has been a bit of a revelation the last couple of seasons, and they race here with us at the Northern Region Championships as part of our invitational categories. But don't be fooled, these are production vehicles as they come off the shelf, as they go racing. Ronnie Burtis and Etienne Fenter in the G444 would do the chase down. That's one of the new shape Can-Am Mavericks. Plenty of suspension travel, plenty of power to boot. And just enough room for two big oaks to squeeze their way into the cockpit. Out on the track though, the guys that opened up our race, Malcolm Koch and Sean Van Staden, had a clean run in the T13 as they brought it home at the end of the 4x4 Mega World Prologue. 42 Ks, job done. Johan Van Staden and Mike Lawrenson set off second, arrived second and had a good run at it as well. Kutsia and Sandra Labuskakny-Jonk would be looking to put their Porter on pole position as they went out into the full race loops. 248 kilometers would be next up. Vernon Kennedy and CJ Van Plexen seem to be getting on with their bat. The former Gibson race machine was still on point. This was right at the closing stages of the race, one of the slower sections of the track, and tight, especially for the special vehicles. Keith DeToy and Robbie Kutsia tiptoeing their bat Spec 2 in the A18. They'd be going after an overall win in the special vehicles. Jacques Van Tonder, alongside with Sammy Redlinghuis in the Road to Dakar Ford Ranger, were holding nothing back. The Ford had become a FOD as they lost the R off the front of their vehicle. LC Diacha and NM Killian, the giant killers and a massive threat for the production vehicle overalls. They brought home one of the strongest times coming out of the Prologue in the S87. Yanni Visser and Chris Visser Jr. never count them out. When it is their day, they come out swinging, and the X1 single cab Toyota Hilux was getting the job done. A massive thanks to all of the landowners around the Vryburg area and the Vryburg Motor Club for allowing us this spectacular Prologue loop. Pete and Benjamin Kutsia were all about the X8 and bringing the Toyota Hilux home. Tony and Mikey Gouveia had spent a lot of time getting themselves used to the semi-automatic box on the CRT, and as you can hear, it's a bit of a slow pickup on the CRT, the gearbox and the engine. You've got to rail a lot of corner speed, and that's what Tony and Mike were telling me as they got themselves used to running out of a normal gearbox into just a two-pedal format. Lawrence Van Veek and Suez Moret, names we know very well, had no problems on their time trial, and it was just all about looking for the ticking clock come the end of play to see where they would line up in their race queue. Regan Austin and Trevor Robinson had done a nice job to put themselves well in the mix for the D category production vehicles. Aki and Jandre Kruger were also going to be looking for a top 5 placing coming out of the Prologue in the Class E Buckies. Frickie and Chart Stain running in the Midas Vryburg colours were happy to just get themselves through the Prologue and go ahead and start thinking about their strategy going into 248 Ks of racing. Duplessis and Vermaak chasing them down as the first of the Isuzus. Andre Gildenace and Victor Fincham had used the Prologue as a glorified shakedown session as they'd done a full rebuild on their E6 Toyota Hilux in the pre-season build-up, with Macanetti and Incheki doing a nice run in the P22 Bat. They were clearly finding the tight terrain very much to their liking. Even though it was a short loop, there was a little bit of catching, and sometimes a little bit of argy-bargy overtaking there as well. Francois van der Vaart and Gerry Prinsloo just making sure of the clean pass as they ploughed the field. Francois van der Vaart and Gerry Prinsloo would have to hold their breath to see if they top the charts in the D33 production vehicles. Jaco and Johan Vierse hadn't gone out all attack on the 42k loop and were definitely playing the long game at the opening round of the championship. Deploy and Murray battling with the tighter sections at the end of the loop and losing some time in their chase to be Class D Round 1 winners. Team Bradbury and Claessens in the invitational side-by-side category had an amazingly fun time out on their loop. These side-by-side buggies custom made for short sprint laps, 42Ks, all about them. They got through on Duplessis and Thompson in the second of the KBs. The Isuzu still running the numbers though. With the older models now, the Zeds, Toyota Land Cruiser of Fincham and Bielefeld in the mix between the side-by-sides with Ronnie Burtis and Etienne Fenter. Can-Am Maverick 444 having a good run. At the end of time trial though, it was all about checking out the numbers to see where they were going to be queuing up. And in the special vehicle Class Ps, it was Keith McNetty and Nsheki who got the win in their Bat Spec 2 ahead of the Gaveyas in the CRT. In the Class E production vehicles, Tians de Toy and Arnold Norkia getting the win over Gildenace and Victor Fensham, two Toyotas topping the charts. Then in the Class Ds, it was all about Francois van der Vaart and Gerry Prinsloo. No big surprise there to see them topping it ahead of Lawrence van Wyk and Swace Murray. Again, Toyotas taking the top 2 slots. In the overall production class, it was van der Vaart and Prinsloo ahead of Van Wyk and Murray, and then Jaco and Johan Vierse squeaking it inside of a top 3. All Class Ds showing how tight it was. In the Class X, it was Yanni Visser and Chris Visser Jr. ahead of Alcy de Jager and Killian, and then in Class Z, Cecil Fensham in the old Toyota Land Cruiser. He got the big win ahead of De Villiers and Jacobs. In the National Invitational, it was the Renault Duster in the elf colours of Johan van Staden and Mike Lawrenson getting the win ahead of Werner Kennedy and CJ Van Pletsen. A nice mix-up of production vehicles and specials. And in the Class Gs, those are our side-by-side invitationals. Bradbury and Burtis got the big win. Join us after the break as we go into full-time racing. 248 kilometres still to come. Stay with us.